Data sensitivity and labeling exist to make data handling consistent across environments, systems, and teams, even as information moves and changes hands. Without clear sensitivity definitions and visible labels, organizations rely on individual judgment in moments where speed and convenience often win over caution. Labeling creates shared understanding by making expectations explicit rather than implied, reducing ambiguity in daily decisions. It also enables automation, allowing controls to follow data rather than requiring people to remember rules in every context. When sensitivity and labeling are implemented well, they turn abstract data protection principles into predictable behavior across the organization. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to the CISS books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyberauthor.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. Sensitivity reflects the potential harm that could result from unauthorized exposure, unauthorized alteration, or unavailability of data, and it must be evaluated holistically. Exposure can lead to privacy violations, competitive disadvantage, regulatory penalties, or reputational damage depending on the data involved. Alteration can undermine trust, decision-making, financial integrity, or safety when data is relied upon for operations or reporting. Unavailability can disrupt business processes, customer service, or mission-critical functions, even when confidentiality is preserved. Sensitivity therefore captures more than secrecy, because it accounts for the full range of consequences tied to how data is used. Framing sensitivity around harm keeps classification grounded in outcomes rather than labels for their own sake. Labels are the mechanism used to communicate sensitivity to both people and systems using standardized categories. A label makes the sensitivity decision visible at the point of use, reminding users how the data should be handled without requiring them to recall policy details. Standardization matters because inconsistent labels create confusion and weaken enforcement. When labels are understood consistently across the organization, they become a shared language for protection expectations. Labels also enable systems to act automatically, enforcing rules without relying solely on human judgment. In this way, labeling bridges policy intent and operational execution. Labeling policies define which data types require labels and when labeling must occur, providing clarity that prevents inconsistent application. Policies may require labeling at creation, ingestion, or first storage, ensuring that data is classified before it spreads. They also define which categories of data are exempt, such as publicly available information, reducing unnecessary overhead. Timing matters because unlabeled data often defaults to permissive handling, creating silent exposure. Clear policy guidance reduces friction by removing guesswork about when labeling is required. When policies are explicit, labeling becomes a routine step rather than a discretionary one. Labels can be applied manually, automatically, or through inheritance rules built into systems, and each method serves a different purpose. Manual labeling allows users to apply context and judgment, which can be valuable for nuanced datasets. Automatic labeling reduces reliance on user action by applying labels based on detected patterns or system context. Inheritance rules propagate labels as data moves or is derived, preserving protection across workflows. Combining these approaches provides flexibility while maintaining consistency. The goal is to minimize gaps where data exists without an appropriate label. Automatic labeling uses patterns, context, and classifiers to identify sensitive data and apply labels without user intervention. Patterns may include identifiers, such as account numbers, personal identifiers, or structured data formats. Context may include system source, business process, or access role associated with the data. Classifiers can combine multiple signals to improve accuracy and reduce false positives. Automation reduces human error, which is especially important in high-volume environments where manual labeling is unrealistic. While automatic methods require tuning and oversight, they dramatically increase coverage and consistency. Label metadata is what allows sensitivity decisions to drive control behavior across systems. Metadata can trigger encryption requirements, restrict sharing options, enforce access limits, or require additional approvals. Because metadata travels with the data, controls can be applied consistently, even as data moves between tools and platforms. This approach reduces reliance on perimeter-based protection and supports data-centric security models. Metadata-driven controls also simplify compliance because enforcement is tied directly to classification. When metadata is leveraged effectively, protection becomes embedded rather than bolted on. Consistency across platforms is critical because labeling loses value if it applies only in isolated systems. Sensitive data often flows through email, file storage, databases, messaging platforms, and collaboration tools during normal work. If labels are recognized in one environment but ignored in another, protection gaps appear at the boundaries. Consistent labeling ensures that handling rules are enforced regardless of how data is accessed or shared. Achieving this consistency requires coordination across tooling and governance functions. When done correctly, it prevents users from unintentionally bypassing controls by switching platforms. Changes to labels require governance because improper downgrading of sensitive data can expose the organization to significant risk. Governance ensures that label changes are intentional, authorized, and justified by changes in data context or sensitivity. Downgrading may be appropriate when data is aggregated into reports or anonymized, but it should not occur casually. Approval workflows and review requirements prevent misuse or convenience-driven decisions. Governance also provides a record of why sensitivity changed, supporting accountability. Without oversight, labeling systems can erode over time through gradual relaxation. Handling rules tied to labels often include storage location limits and requirements for approved services. Highly sensitive data may be restricted to specific environments with stronger controls and monitoring. Less sensitive data may be allowed in broader collaboration platforms without additional safeguards. These rules reduce exposure by ensuring that data resides only where appropriate protections exist. Storage rules also support compliance with localization and contractual obligations. When storage requirements are clear and enforced automatically, users are less likely to make risky, convenience-driven choices. Transmission rules define which channels may be used to send sensitive data and what protections must be applied during transfer. Some labels may require encryption in transit, while others may prohibit transmission over certain channels entirely. Approved channels are selected based on their ability to enforce authentication, logging, and protection requirements. Clear transmission rules prevent accidental disclosure through insecure methods. Enforcement through labeling reduces reliance on training alone. This alignment between label and channel keeps protection consistent even under time pressure. Exceptions are sometimes necessary, but they must be documented with business justification, compensating controls, and expiration periods. Exceptions acknowledge that operational realities sometimes conflict with standard handling rules. Documentation ensures that deviations are visible and reviewed rather than silently tolerated. Compensating controls explain how risk is reduced despite the exception. Expiration periods force reevaluation, preventing temporary workarounds from becoming permanent. Proper exception handling preserves flexibility without sacrificing governance. Audit trails play a crucial role by capturing when labels are applied, changed, and used to make access decisions over time. These records provide evidence that sensitivity rules are followed consistently and that changes are authorized. Audit trails support investigations, compliance reviews, and incident analysis by showing how data was classified at each point. They also deter misuse by increasing transparency and accountability. When auditability is built into labeling systems, trust in the program increases. Without audit trails, labeling becomes difficult to defend under scrutiny. In conclusion, labels operationalize data sensitivity so that controls follow data automatically wherever it goes. Sensitivity definitions ground protection in real harm, while labels communicate expectations clearly to people and systems. Automated and inherited labeling reduces error and preserves consistency across environments. Metadata-driven controls translate classification into enforceable behavior without constant human intervention. Governance, exceptions, and audit trails maintain integrity as data and context change. When sensitivity and labeling are treated as core operational capabilities, organizations protect data predictably rather than relying on individual discretion. Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.